Hi guys, this is going to be a little bit different than usual. I'm going to talk about how to set up my home fireplace to provide heat for the home. Now, I'm sorry you're going to hear a ceiling fan going right behind the camera, but I need the light for you to see me. I don't run the ceiling fan while I'm running the fireplace, but I need the light. And if you turn the ceiling fan off, the lights go out. So, one of those wonders of technology. I have a fairly wide fireplace, and I have a large block brick wall as well as a large brick footer in it. This is like 12 foot by 8 foot of brick. Once this is warm, this radiates heat into the room hours after the fire goes out. So this has been set up to heat the house, okay? Not all fireplaces are created alike. And many of the fireplaces that were created in the 1970s and 80s and definitely in the 90s were really meant to be a natural gas or propane fireplace and may not even have a flue going up in it, a chimney. So what this is a fireplace insert. This house was built in the 1980s. I have a very large cast iron grate right here, and the cast iron grate is large, I'd say 3/4 of an inch bars all the way across with a saddle. Those bars are used to hook and let firewood lean in, because being the fact that they're going like me to you, when I put a piece of firewood in to those two notches, it hooks the bottom edge and holds it so it can lean over this way. And therefore, as it's burned and consumed, it does this. If the bars went this way, it'd want to slide and the wood would want to slide off. So I chose this design of cast iron for a reason, so it would do a good job for this. Now to begin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a fire poker and I'm going to make sure that the bed of ash has been spread out underneath, and I don't let this accumulate to being really big or a problem. I want it to be relatively, I like an inch of ash at the bottom of my fireplace, but that's about it. Anything more than that, and I clean it out every day or so. Now, making sure all the ashes are off the grate with a little broom. Then I'm going to take my poker, I'm going underside like I just said. I'm going to make sure that bed of ash is spread out and I've got plenty of airflow underneath, because I don't want to smother the upcoming fire because it don't have enough air space. Now, we'll get to the bucket in a second. I'm going to utilize the full width of this. Instead of making a central fire, I'm going to utilize the full width. So, I'm going to start. Now I've got my firewood stacked close by. I'm going to take four pretty good sized logs. Now look at that nice big back. I'm going to put that to the back, and I'm going to put this one right beside of it, like that, beside of it. Making sure that they're pushed back against the back wall. Now right in the center, I'm going to put a starter log. Of course, I could build it like I do in a campfire with tinders, etc., but this is just very handy. I'm going to put it where this little tab is sticking out to be able to easily reach it and light it. Put it in the middle. Then in front, I'm going to put 2 more base logs. Two nice, big, thick base logs, just like that. Leaving room to come in from this way and get to the end of the log to light it. Now across the top, I'm going to put 2 pretty good sized pieces of wood on the end. Here is that fire log I'm putting in. I'm putting it just on the end on that side and just on the end on this side. Okay? Now, in between these two logs, I'm going to take smaller pieces and I'm going to go across. Just like this. Fire loves chaos. Okay? Now, in my bucket here, I have finely split down pieces, and I have also walked around the yard and picked up small kindling where I have broke it down into small pieces. Now I'm going to take a big handful of them small pieces down here. A handful like that, and I'm going to put right there. I'm going to take the even finer stuff and I'm going to put it right beside it. And I'm going to take 2 or 3 pieces of the small stuff and I'm going to lay them directly over it. Just like that. And I'm going to take a pretty good sized piece and lay on top of it. Just like that. Saving this for the next fire. I've got my gloves handy should I need to grab hold of something. Put that out of the way. Now we are ready to light the fire. I'm going to use a standard long light. Now, let's talk about the flue or dampener. What job does it perform? Whenever you're initially starting up, I've got it set to wide open. Up inside the pipe, there's a flap that when it's closed, it's like that. Whenever I open it, it's like that. Okay? Right now it's in this configuration. This lets the maximum amount of smoke go by. So I start with it wide open. Once the fire gets going and the bulk of this tinder has burned off and it's down to just the logs burning, I will close it down. What that does, it tilts it. I will close it down to about like 80% open. Okay? What I'm looking for is to trap a little of the heat and have not all the heat go straight up the chimney like you can think of like a campfire. By closing it just a little bit, it reflects and kind of traps a little heat. So it's kind of like you're taking 5 lanes of traffic and trying to let them go into 3 lanes. Everybody kind of boxes up. Well, the heat stacks up. And that means more heat coming into the room and less going up the chimney. But you don't want to go too far. How far is too far? If smoke starts coming in, you're too close. And an old rule of thumb is I want my fireplace kind of in the dark a little bit. Once it gets going, I will get right here and I'll shine a strong flashlight this way and be able to see smoke coming out. If I see smoke, I open it up a little bit more until all I see is a constant air draft coming in. Now you can light a candle and hold that taper candle up here or whatever and see which way the flame is going. If the flame is leaning in, too much heat is rolling in. If the flame is leaning toward the fireplace, it's drafting, which means sucking air. Also, down here in the bottom, I have an exterior grate hole. This is just an opening that goes to a pipe that goes through this big brick floor all the way to the outside of the house. And this allows fresh air to flow straight in and go immediately into the fire. This is important because what happens is that once the fire ignites and the heat starts rising, you have the chimney and the draft effect, which means it draws. Think of like you pull the stopper in the bathtub and the water starts flowing out. Well, the heat is flowing up, so it's sucking. See? If I do not have a constant air source coming to it, it's forced to take the air out of the room. which means very little air and very little heat can get into the room because it's trying to push against the wind. See what I'm saying? I want this air out here to be relatively stable with very little air draft coming this way. A little is okay, but not much. I want my primary air to be right here coming in to feed this fire so that I get the reflective heat, not I get smoke, and definitely not that I don't get any heat because it's all being sucked straight up the chimney. If you do not have an air side coming to the base of your fire, it sucks air through every opening in your house, around the windows, through the keyhole, under the door. Every place in the house sucks air in, and therefore you've got very cold outside air flowing in through every crevice in the house. And the house never gets warm because that air is constantly being exchanged and flowing out. See, it's like the bathtub can't get warm because you're putting hot water in, but it's flowing out as fast. It never has a chance to warm this air before that air moves out. So I want this air to be stagnant. I want my house well sealed up. But I want this air to feed the fire. See? So once I've got the flames going here, and I'm about to light this, the heat radiates into the room. Flames and coals will radiate the heat into the room. Once the room starts to warm up, over here in the corner, out of camera, I have a small box fan that instead of sitting it flat, I've angled it to angle up at the ceiling. Remember, heat rises. So as this heat comes in, it's going to flow up. And once it flows up here to the ceiling, there's going to be a pocket of real warm air right up there. I want that draft from the floor to go through that fan and come up here and then push that warm air to the far corner so that it then flows back to be warmed up to go again. And I get this circulatory current going in here. It's slow and it's subtle, but it does heat up the entire house. It just takes time. If you do not have an air source and you notice that you can build a big old huge fire and you can walk 10 feet from the fire and you can't feel any heat, you don't feel nothing, you probably do not have a proper air draft. You're getting cool air coming from the far side of the house being sucked in. Light a candle and see there and see which way the flame goes. That'll tell you where the air is coming from. Another tip, sealing up your home, is wait till you got a good cool evening, get a fire going, or even if you've got central heat and air, and go around and run your hand, wet your hand just a little bit. I like to use baby wipes. Wet it down to baby wipe and you'll feel cold air coming in. Make a note of it, seal it up until you seal up any air leaks you have within the house. That's going to make a big difference in trying to seal up and keep the house warm. Since I have an airflow right here, I know that I want this air dead still. By then putting that to circulate this body of warm air, I spread it to the house and I warm the walls and ceilings, thus creating the warmth that I need in the house without having to run the central heat and air unit. See, I am maintaining it and keeping it where I need it to be. Okay? So, we light it. And I'm going to shift to this side and light the other side as well. As again, I've already got my dampener open. This is going to be the big production of flame here in the beginning. The volume I want going up because I want to make the transition from being kindling to the main wood burning. I will watch it, stay here with it, until all this little kindling is gone and all this small stuff is going. As this starts to collapse in, I want the bed of coals right here in the middle. See, I can push all four of these logs toward the middle. That's the reason I do not want these to be one big long log. I want them to be pieces so I can shove. and push to the middle. As these burn, and this burns down in the middle, I will push them toward the back and put a fresh log in front, as well as adding to the top, leaning toward the middle. I want there to be an opening right here where the flames and the coals can project heat out into the room. And by using the angle of this, like I talked about, steadying and leaning it, I can sit from the outside edge and lean inward and thus feed the fire. I have 3 stacks of firewood. I have the bucket that you saw with a small tinder. And this is just I walk around my yard and pick up. Snap it up small, put it in the bucket. Then I split down small pieces like this, just like we do for a campfire. Then I have some dry wood right here that you see. And then out on my porch is the wet wood. That was cut earlier this year. And so it's still a little bit green. It's dry enough to burn, but it's a little bit green. That is the long burn fire. If I'm running this fireplace all day, I'll get it going with this. But this will burn a little fast. Once I get a good bed of coals, then I'll transition to that green wood out there, that wood that's not quite seasoned enough. It's got a higher moisture content, and it's slower to burn. It produces coals, but has a much longer burn time, so it's less work to maintain it. You can probably hear it crackling in there. Right now it's getting all this to start burning. It's a little slow to start this way, but it's the best way that I found to do it. You can see flames are starting to lick up now around the edges. This platform I've made right here will allow air and heat to come through and get it going. Once this gets burning and it starts collapsing in on itself, I will add across the top to press that bed of coals down as that bed of coals gets bigger and bigger. Over the course of, say, the next hour, these logs, the 4 I put in the beginning, will be burning. I will push them toward the back and put fresh logs in front, constantly pushing toward that bed of coals. That is my technique for running my fireplace in my home to heat in the winter. Yes, I do have a central heat and air unit, but by doing this, I can save a lot of electricity because I don't have to run it. The house is already warm. It's in the mid-60s in the house right now. I'll light this fire, and this fire will burn, and we'll burn it for the next 4 hours, 5 hours, till about 11 o'clock tonight. And then I will make sure the fire is contained, put up, and we'll go to bed. I'll have a screen that goes across here, which I will demonstrate now. I have this short screen that I put right here just for whenever I'm starting out, like this. I have a much bigger, heavier grate that I'm going to drag in and lean up here at night if I'm going to leave it burning, because it's big and bad enough that even a log can't roll out. If it rolls against this, it'll stop it and keep it in the fireplace. We, of course, have smoke detectors and monoxide detectors at the entrance to the bedroom and other key points. I don't want a little accidental smoke from me building a fire and the flue not being right or whatever to go and trigger that smoke alarm. But in the other room, I do want it to trigger if there's any problem. The smoke alarm in this room is in the far end of the room around the little corner. So it would be smoke, not just I didn't quite close the flue far enough. See, now we've got good flames going. It will now burn along quite happily, all by itself, and I will sit over here, read, whatever, and keep an eye on it. But you can, here in modern times, still keep a house comfortable with just a fireplace and not have to pay those big electrical bills. Hope you've enjoyed this, guys. If you'd like to see more content about the homestead and tips and tricks, please leave them down there in the comments. I'll be glad to answer you. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.